So the debate just ended. It's 10:48 p.m. and I'm about to go to sleep, but I just decided that I wanted to post a quick response video once it was over. Like there's some people with some channels where they do like live reactions and stuff like that. No, I'd rather sit back, listen to the whole thing, and then do a response video. First of all, let me just say that as far as I'm concerned, these aren't even real debates, as far as I'm concerned. First of all, debate has a format, and with the debate, you're supposed to actually have like very specific facts. This entire thing, no matter what happens, no matter who wins, whether it's Trump or Harris, I think Donald Trump should be given credit for embarrassing the media so much that they had to change all of their traditional formats. There was no fact checking for the most part allowed. However, the moderator, the female moderator, at a certain point, they asked a question about abortion, and Trump said that after the baby's born, that the laws would allow that child to be killed. Now, the question is, what is his definition of born? Because if you're a person who believes in life after conception, or if you're a person who believes that a baby's born or alive at the 8th month or the 9th month, and then you start getting into all of these really weird questions about late-term abortion, because not every birth is the same. Well, she interrupted him at the end, and she basically fact-checked him, and she said, oh, there are no laws that allow a child to be, or a baby to be killed after it's born. The thing about it is, if the baby isn't actually pushed out of the woman, then are you counting that as born or not? See, that's the problem. As far as I'm concerned, abortion should have never been this level of a weasel issue, but I am glad that the Supreme Court pushed it to the states and said the states can make their rights about it, because that's how it's supposed to be in the first place. There is no right to abortion. Abortion is not one of the Bill of Rights. If they want it, they're going to have to fight for it, and they're going to have to make it a constitutional convention so that they can add abortion as a right, because it's not a right. That's the bottom line. But what I do like about Trump is how he constantly threw it back to, this is an issue tearing the country apart and blah, blah, blah. And I feel that these debates are a joke. Really quickly, just to rehash the Biden versus Trump debate, that debate never should have happened. Neither Trump nor Biden had officially been nominated by the party when they had that CNN debate. Neither of them had been officially nominated. Therefore, that debate shouldn't have happened. Now, it was obvious that as an incumbent president, that Biden was pretty much guaranteed to be able to debate in that position. But Trump hadn't been nominated, though. And furthermore, the DNC hadn't actually given Biden the nomination, despite the fact he's an incumbent. But the reality is that debate never really should have happened. And I personally believe that CNN set Joe Biden up. And the reason why I say that is they knew that that man wasn't all there. They had been lying to us, and they'd been lying and lying and lying and lying. And they'd been saying, oh, he's sharp as a tack and blah, blah, blah. But the reality is they knew that this man wasn't right, because they were seeing him in ways that we couldn't see him, because they weren't allowing us to see him that way. The media for the last couple of years, as you know, forget Trump, forget Kamala Harris, the media has been silencing, marginalizing, and it has basically been lying. So they have silenced dissent. They have silenced certain opinions from sides that they don't like, opinions they don't like, both from the left and from the right, especially when it came to during COVID, when it came to the vaccines and immunizations and whatnot. They were silencing dissent. Now, when they knew that Biden was not all there, what did they do? He's sharp as a tack. Oh, he's as fit as a fiddle. Oh, he's sharper than he's ever been. Blah, blah, blah. That CNN debate uncovered the truth, and it showed us that the emperor had no clothes. Trump when they did that debate, both sides walked away from that debate trying to claim that each side won. Trump claimed that he won. Biden's side claimed that he won. The reality was we all saw that there was something seriously wrong with Biden. So what did they do? They took that amount of time to form a coup d'etat against Biden and threatened to. We'll never know what happened on those phone calls. We'll never know. They called up Biden and said, yeah, guess what? We're not going to give you the money that we've accumulated for your next campaign. We're going to give it to somebody else. We're not giving it to you. So you're going to have no choice but to get out of this race. So we saw this happen. We saw it happen. We saw them do this. They push Biden out. They basically look like they're trying to, I don't know if I should use the word anoint, but they basically make it look like they want to install Kamala Harris, Princess Kamala, right? So the reality is, you saw what the media did. Oh, look at this. We've got Kamala. Oh, she's raised all this money. Excuse me, most of that money, that was supposed to be Biden's money, and all you did was switch it to Kamala. So, again, you're still lying. The media is still lying. They just don't stop. So, and I'm not even attacking Kamala Harris, and I'm not attacking Trump just yet. I'm attacking the media itself. I appreciate Trump specifically for uncovering how bad this media has actually gotten. I don't know why they agreed to do it on ABC specifically, but okay, fine. They agreed to do it on ABC. You could see by watching this debate, you could see the bias in the questions themselves. What I do like about the fact Trump kept on asking, well, you're in office right now. Where is Biden? I haven't heard anything from Biden in a long time. I have no idea where Biden is. I was laughing my ass off most of the time because Trump was like, oh, yeah, well, you should go to the White House and wake Biden up at 4 p.m. in the afternoon and tell him to go do something about the border. But the reality is that beckons the question, where is this man? Where is Biden? Where is he? What is he doing? Where is he? Until January of next year, Biden is still the president. But where is he? The media has protected him in ways that they really shouldn't have. Because the reality is, when those world leaders see him, they see what we're not seeing because they see what the media is not allowing us to see. One thing about Trump on this debate, a lot of people don't seem to understand communication. When Trump is speaking and he's rambling and rambling and rambling, what he's doing is he's communicating with the people who are going to vote for him. Now, everybody, oh, he's stupid. Oh, he's got a third grade education and he uses stupid words. He uses big and bigly and all this. But the point of him being on that debate stage, the point isn't to wow the professors at Harvard. The point isn't to wow the professors at Yale. That's not the point. The point is simply to get enough people to vote for you across the country that you win. That's the only reason why you're up there. That is your goal. That is your primary objective. His communication style, oh yes, it's rambling. He had me dying. He said, yes, they don't want to talk about this. They're eating the dogs. And when he went to that, yes, it did start to go off the rails. But I was like, what most likely happened was that he heard a story about these immigrants and the migrants killing a dog or whatever it was, and something happening to the dog. Perhaps the dog was being cannibalized, or I shouldn't say cannibalized because, it's not the same species. But in this case, the dog was eaten by humans. And he decided to put that into his diatribe about Kamala Harris, letting in illegal aliens and letting in potential future voters who are illegal aliens. Now, ultimately, he has a lot of good points, and you could tell that he's sharp enough to deliver those points. The problem ultimately is that what he's saying if it doesn't resonate with you, then he's not talking to you, and he's not worried about the fact that he's not talking to you. And the reality is, he'd be better off leaving out certain things. Like he'd be better off not talking about them eating dogs, for one. But that said, his main points, he has to get them out this way. And the reason why is because the media has done its best to marginalize him for basically the last 4 years. It basically started from the day that they cut off his Twitter. When they cut off his Twitter and they shut him down on Facebook, they basically silenced him on all the social media simultaneously. They used January 6th as a pretext to silence him. And the reality is, this is how he has to speak. He has to do it this way because he doesn't have a chance to get these points out any other way. You've seen how the media doesn't cover his rallies. They don't cover his rallies. It's easy for Kamala to say, oh, yeah, well, people get bored at your rallies and they start leaving. But the reality is the media doesn't really cover his rallies. When they do cover his rallies, the only time they will is if there's some type of issue. And even then, they only cover the negatives. And then at that point, they just turn away from it. Like they'll let him talk for about 2 minutes and then they just turn away from it. And I remember when he was up against Hillary, one of the reasons why he won was because all of his rallies were getting covered basically 100%. Hillary, meanwhile, wasn't doing rallies. She was doing all these private parties, going after all these super rich donors, and that's what cost her the election. So at the end, oh yes, it was very easy for Hillary to get the popular vote because she basically won California and New York State. What she couldn't get was the Electoral College because she lost the counties. The counties are the ones that were actually feeling the pain. And they were like, no, we're not voting for her. We're voting against her. NAFTA has hurt us. Her husband was behind NAFTA and blah, blah, blah. And the rest is history. As far as this debate goes, as far as I'm concerned, this debate was a joke. And it's funny because before it even came on, I saw in the news that there were some parents out there, oh, I don't know if I want to let my child watch the debate. I'm like, well, your child is a citizen, right? Your child will be a voter someday, right? They should be watching this. If you pathetic parents let your child play first-person shooters all day long on PlayStation 5, if you pathetic parents allowing your children to play Baldur's Gate on Xbox, and you're allowing them to play violent, sexually suggestive, and abusive video games constantly, all day long. That's what they do. If you pathetic parents allow your children to buy the music and listen to these parental advisory explicit lyrics that they're listening to, you're telling me that it's too much to let the child watch the news? Or what we call the news. You're telling me that they can't watch a debate between two people who will be making policies one way or another, whoever wins, that will affect all of our lives in this country? So you mean to tell me that you're going out there buying violent video games, violent music, putting your kids on these cell phones and letting them watch pornography at will, because you are so inept that you have no control over what they're doing. But yet you're afraid to let them watch a presidential debate. You're stupid. That's what you are. That's what you are. I'm very disappointed that the English language doesn't have harsher words for me to use without just going into vulgarity. Stupid covers it. And that's why they try to get rid of words like stupid, because in just 2 syllables, that's what you are. And they don't like it when you have like very short words that describe somebody. They always try to get rid of those words, or they try to cover them up. That's what you are. But that's the issue that I have. It's like I was watching the news and I'm listening to this. And I'm like, you mean to tell me that you've got these people who are going to be future voters? They should be watching this. They should be learning from it. But no, what they are doing is trying to cover up the truth. What they're doing is they're trying to marginalize Trump. That's what they're trying to do. Now, whether I'm for him or not is irrelevant. The reality is they've been doing everything they could to marginalize him. Now, this man is running, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't believe any of these polls. As far as I'm concerned, he has a 50-50 chance at this point of winning the presidency. What remains to be seen is within the next 2 months whether or not the economy sours anymore. Now, again, Trump's delivery style, I have problems with it. If I was doing that debate, if I was delivering his speeches, I would focus a little bit more on the absolute facts. We found out just recently, because he was pointing out about the tariffs, for example, because that was one of the first questions they asked. We found out that Stellantis, I guess because they're pissed off at the UAW, they're trying to cancel the cars being built in America, most of them, and they're trying to force those cars into Mexico. When Trump specifically said that, yes, the foreign automakers are moving their production to Mexico, and some of these cars are produced by the Chinese specifically. What he's talking about is actually something that we've been following with Stellantis specifically, about the Chinese trying to, BYD is one of the companies trying to specifically buy into the Stellantis brands so that this way they'd be able to avoid our tariffs if Trump were to be in office. They want to be able to avoid tariffs. Right now, the Chinese have the ability to make automobiles much, much cheaper than America. You have to remember, America only has like 350 million people. China has over 1.4 billion people. Labor in China and labor all over Asia, for the most part, is cheap. Labor all over India, for the most part, is cheap. They don't have to pay those people that much. They live in a completely different economy. They live in a completely different consumer price index. So the reality is those people have an advantage over us. There's more of them, and they can build cheaper. So when I hear Trump talking about these tariffs, and I hear them asking questions about these tariffs, everything that was being said when I was watching this, everything was in general. Everything was all generalizations. And that's one of the big problems, I would say, with Trump, and that's what makes it so easy to fact check him and say everything he's saying is false and a lie. As far as I'm concerned, Yahoo fact check is shit, okay? As far as I'm concerned, I was looking at some of their fact checks. They're shit. That's what they are. And the reality is, when you're forcing people to actually debate and speak in generalizations, with a real debate, they wouldn't be speaking in generalizations. They'd actually have to be standing there, and they'd actually have to have specific numbers. But what you're doing is you're forcing these people to speak in generalizations. And then when they make the generalizations, now you get to pick and choose arbitrarily whether they're telling the truth or not. But the reality is, no, these are things that I know are happening in real life because I pay attention. But the way he's explaining it, you can easily say, yeah, well, that's not true. But no, it is true. That's the problem. It is true. It's just that you're forcing them to speak in generalizations. That, again, is a fault of the media. Because here's the thing. If it's so important, if this is such a historical presidential debate, then why the fuck are you having it at like 9:30 to 10, what was it, till 10:58? They ended at about 10:58. You're having it from like 9:30 to 10:58. If this was so important and we're really worried about the fate of the country, shouldn't you be doing this shit in the middle of the day? Like, or okay, let's say people come home late from work. Shouldn't you be doing this somewhere around like maybe 5 or 6 or 7? Shouldn't this be something that gets more time devoted to it? Why is it that everybody has to line up to watch a television at Tuesday at 9:30? People are coming back from work. People are fucking exhausted. If this is so important, then why isn't the debate a week long? Why isn't it 2 hours a day for a week? In fact, why isn't it 2 hours a day for a week right before Election Day, if it's so important? The media is the problem. And I go right back to the beginning of what I said. I really think no matter what happens, whether Trump wins or loses, he deserves credit for exposing how bad this media has gotten. He deserves a lot of credit for it. I appreciate the fact that though the moderators didn't ask about it, that he kept on bringing it back to how the Biden administration and how the Harris vice presidency, how they have mishandled the Ukraine-Russia war, how they have mishandled the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in Gaza. I'm so glad that he kept bringing it back to that. I am very glad he kept bringing it back to that. I would have done it in a more pointed way. I would have said specifically, you've been there for 3 years. What have you and Biden done to end this? Keep in mind, this war started in 2021, and I have a better memory than a lot of people do. When this war between Russia and Ukraine started, that is when the Federal Reserve started raising interest rates. If you think back, that's exactly what happened. And the reason why I remember is because interest rates on a 30-year fixed mortgage were around 3% right up until the Russia-Ukraine war started. When the Federal Reserve started raising interest rates, that's when you also saw a simultaneous spike in gas prices. We remember that year very well because we saw gas hit $6 and $7 and $8 and $9, and the memes that came from that time. That's one of the reasons why on my Instagram I post the memes that are relevant to what's going on at that time. Because memes are a very, very simple way of communicating the zeitgeist. That's the spirit of what's happening at the time. Memes are a very good way of communicating it without really breaking the terms of service, so long as you pick your memes wisely. When you put a meme up there, you're basically, no matter whether it's a good meme or a bad meme, what you're doing is you're talking about what's happening at that time. I posted a lot of memes about gas prices because I was feeling them. $6 a gallon I had to pay in some cases. And because obviously it was premium unleaded fuel, but even the people who were buying regular unleaded fuel, they're paying over $4 a gallon. We remember that very vividly. But the thing about it is a lot of people aren't very good with the timelines, which is why it's very important to communicate the timeline. Again, Trump and Kamala, they're speaking in generalities. Now, as far as when, there were a couple of questions that Kamala Harris dodged. Trump dodged most of the questions, or he redirected the question, because basically, as far as Trump's concerned, your question is loaded. So I'm going to say whatever I feel like saying, and then maybe I'll come back around and you'll have to give me more time to answer the question. But the reality is, you mean to tell me in all this time that they're still rehashing the exact same bullshit? They're still going over January 6th. They're still going over the Central Park 5. And let me tell you something. On Wikipedia, the facts of the Central Park 5 are put up there. See, the problem that I see is a lot of people, they think that the Central Park 5 was just about 5 people. It wasn't just about 5 people. If you look up the facts of the Central Park 5, you'll realize that there was a group of people in the Central Park area. It was between 20 and 30. And a lot of those people, we don't know exactly who, because, it's many years after. A lot of those people were assaulting other people. And it wasn't just a rape case. There was also bikers who got assaulted, people just riding their bikes who got assaulted. So it's no surprise to me that if you have a group of like 20 to 30 people, that 5 of those people could get singled out. Especially, here's the thing. If you're a woman and you get assaulted and you're beaten and this, that, and other, and you're beaten bloody and this, that, and other, and it's very possible for you to be in a situation where you have to pick somebody out of a lineup and you make mistakes. You can swear that that's the person who did it, but you make mistakes. So for them to have to go that far, or I shouldn't say them, for Kamala Harris to go that far back and just basically, because what she's all she's really doing is just calling him a racist. For you to have to go that far back and you have to bring something like that up, despite the fact that I think, if I'm not mistaken, Hillary brought that up too, and it didn't help her any when she lost. It's like, that just tells you that you're more worried about the fact that you have to repudiate your own position as an incumbent. You have to repudiate your own boss, which you just pulled a coup d'etat on. You have to right now distance yourself so much from your own incumbency that now you have to just dig up the dirt that we already know. And that, to me, it's funny because I was talking to a couple of people. We were basically live and I won't say tweeting, but we were like live texting back and forth, right? The other person I was texting with is a Kamala Harris supporter. And another person I was talking with was a Trump supporter. And he basically says, at this point, the moderators are losing control of debate. I was like, no. The moderators never had control of this debate. Any control you think they had was an illusion. It was a joke. It was a big joke. And Kamala's, the world leaders are laughing at you. It's like, excuse me, he's not in office right now. If they're laughing at anybody, they're laughing at you. And as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to, these big dictators, Kim Jong from North Korea, Putin, the leader, he mentioned the leader of the Taliban. That was kind of funny. He says, yes, I called Abdul. I say, you got to stop this attacks on our soldiers or you're going to have problems. And Abdul said, why did you just send me a picture of my house? And then he said, why are you sending me pictures of my house? And I said, you're just going to have to figure that one out. So basically saying, I was threatening to blow up your house from an airstrike. I thought that was pretty funny, actually. And the delivery was brilliant. I loved it. But the bottom line is Putin is going to be in office for the next 6 years. He just got himself another term. A lot of these people out there, all these like pro-Ukraine supporters and everything, jail, you need to put Putin in jail. Oh, you need to lock up Putin, blah, blah, blah. I don't see that happening, number one. Putin is going to be in office for the next 6 years. This man has been in office since like 2000, if I'm not mistaken. He's watched our presidents come and go. And it's really crazy, but I've said this before on this channel, I had the feeling back in 2016 that there was always the possibility Kamala Harris would be president. But when she did that Democrat DNC conference and she had to go up against those other Democrats like Tulsi Gabbard, when I realized how unpopular she was, I was like, there's no way she can win. And then she ended up dropping out. She couldn't even get 2% of the vote. Right now, it really feels like the media has invented a whole new Kamala, and they're doing their best to install this woman. But the reality is, Vladimir Putin ain't afraid of Kamala. He doesn't care about our president who gets it. It doesn't matter. If Trump wins, Vladimir Putin is still going to be in office when Trump is leaving office. If Kamala wins, Vladimir Putin is still going to be in office when Kamala leaves. If Kamala gets a second term, if by chance she gets a first term and then wins a second term, Vladimir Putin will still be there unless Vladimir Putin decides to leave. Kim Jong will be there regardless who wins. He doesn't care who wins. The bottom line is those people are in control of their country for a very simple reason. It's because their country knows that those people scare us. That's the issue. They talk about Putin like he's a madman. Now, a real madman would have nuked Ukraine by now. Putin hasn't done that. As far as the bombing of the Nord Stream pipeline, nobody's taken, responsibility for that, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't Russia because Russia had more to gain with that pipeline in place. Most of those Europeans have been saying it was America that was behind that. Okay, I wasn't there, I don't know. But what I do know is it sent their gas prices skyrocketing and it put a lot of pressure on Germany. A lot of that didn't really come up. I did see Trump did mention the Nord Stream pipeline and whatnot. Trump could have done a little bit better hammering the point home that because of you and your administration, gas prices are up, inflation is up, food prices are up, obviously, and a lot of things are unaffordable, specifically houses and specifically cars, car insurance, auto loans, all of it's messed up. I don't blame the Biden and Harris administration for raising the interest rates because that's really the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell. But what I do blame them for is raising the cost of energy, i.e. shutting off gas production and not... Because, see, the bottom line is it's one thing for you to try to say, we didn't do that. What I do know is what you didn't do. And what you didn't do is what Trump did that helped bring gas prices down, opening up American drilling, I do remember in 2020, in the very beginning, Russia and Saudi Arabia had an oil production war. I do remember that was the reason why I was able to pile into oil and make a lot of money, because the oil went negative. I do remember these things. And the thing about it is, a lot of Americans do not have a very good grasp of timeline and memory. As far as the Biden and Harris administration, they may have brought down the price of some prescription drugs. What I do know is copays are up. What I do know is it costs me more now to see my doctor than it did before. That's what I personally know. Now, I can't speak for everybody else. I do know that there's diabetics out there getting diabetic medication, and they're, oh, thank the Lord Jesus, the diabetic medication came down. The reality is, America has like middlemen making a lot of money off of medication, regardless what your situation is. And the reality is, it's the middlemen that are really the problem. And nobody talks about it. Nobody addresses it. So as far as when Trump got into office, what I do remember specifically is he got rid of that Obamacare individual mandate. I had friends who were forced to pay money because they had health care plans that the Obamacare individual mandate said weren't enough. But once that individual mandate was gone, what I do remember is I was getting more money back in my taxes. I already had health care, but I was getting more money back in my taxes. And what I do know is my friends who were getting fined by Obamacare, because you got to remember, Justice Roberts passed Obamacare as a tax based on that individual mandate. The government has no right to force us to buy anything. The government has no right to force us to buy health care. They have no right to do this. But Roberts passed Obamacare as a tax. The government does have a right to tax us, and that's how Obamacare was allowed to get through. There are some people who love Obamacare. There's some people who gamble their fucking money away in casinos, and they're quick to talk about how great Obamacare has been to them. There are some people who gamble their fucking money away in casinos, and they're so quick to talk about how good Obamacare has been to their children. There are some people who roll around in luxury Mercedes and BMWs and fucking Rolls Royces, and they're so quick to talk about the subsidy captures that they got from Obamacare. So the bottom line is, first of all, that's something that never should have happened. Justice Roberts was wrong for that. I don't care if he wanted to make Obama look good in his presidency. That should have never passed. And a real Supreme Court justice would never pass that bullshit. But Bush appointed this dude. So, there's nothing I can really say about that. It's done. But it can be undone. And Trump did undo it. And he took that individual mandate. He said, no, fuck that. We're taking this shit out. So I appreciate Trump for that. It never should have been law. It was unconstitutional. The government has no right to force us to buy anything at all. But you wouldn't know that because a lot of Americans don't have a good grasp of civics. And that's part of the problem. So when I hear these parents, I don't know if I should let my child watch this. I mean, you don't know what could happen. It's ABC. For the most part, I'll say Trump was mostly controlled. I didn't hear him. I mean, he cursed maybe once. I think he said the country's going to hell. I don't see necessarily saying hell is, such a big problem, considering your kids are listening to women rapping about WAP and what is it? Make it pop. What's the? How does that go? He's like macaroni in a pot for this wet. It's like, listen, if you got your kids listening to that, I don't see a problem with somebody saying the country's going to hell. But this is the mentality at this point. Oh, I don't want them listening to him because he's saying bad things. That's the mentality now. You're letting your kids listen to explicit music. You're letting your kids play. You're letting your kids sit there and play Call of Duty. Your kids are about to go out and buy Call of Duty Black Ops 6. I think it's 6. Because I haven't bought a Black Ops since like Black Ops 3. And they're playing these violent video games. First-person shooters where you're literally looking through the eyes of somebody shooting somebody else. All day long. And then you wonder Why is it that we've had like 5 school shootings within the first week of back to school? Do you understand what I'm saying? You're letting your kids sit there and play Call of Duty Black Ops 6. And what else? What else are they buying? Is there a new Battlefield? I don't think there is. Battlefield 2042 or something. But y'all letting your kids play these violent-ass video games constantly. And then you're surprised when there's like 5 school shootings and school just opened up. I'm surprised Trump and Harris didn't even mention that. Like, there's 5 school shootings. Now, this wasn't under Trump's watch. This is under Kamala Harris and Biden's watch. 5 school shootings. There was just another one today. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, because I know I posted one in my community chat. There's been what was it? The first day of school, there was like 3. Like the first day we had a person here, a teacher in the Bronx, get shot through a window, and that wasn't widely reported. So I'm actually counting that. But my point is, you're letting these kids be violent. And you're worried about them watching ABC to watch a presidential debate? You're letting them listen to the most lascivious, violent music that you can. And you're worried about them tuning into ABC to watch a presidential debate? Really? Please don't give me that bullshit. Oh, well, the debate is 9:30 to 11, and they need to go to sleep because they got a bedtime. Excuse me, most of y'all allow your kids to sit on Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook and all these other social media things, and they're on their phones texting and talking to each other till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. They talk to each other until either their phone dies or they get tired and go to sleep. And you start some bullshit about, oh, the presidential debate is 9:30 to 11? Really? But it's just, I was listening to these people. There was a channel I was watching. It was like an independent channel. And then after that, I turned to ABC, and they had like a call-in with people calling in. They were talking about whether they supported Trump, Harris, or undecided, right? And that was ABC. And I was listening to some of these idiots calling in. And it was just shocking just to listen to hear the shit that these people were saying. It was just shocking. And I'll just end by saying this because I could keep going. But the reality is, it's like, it's funny. A lot of people, oh, this is the best we could do. You mean to tell me that this race is between Trump and Harris? This is the best we could do? Yeah, this is the best we could do. George Carlin said himself, yeah, this is the best that we have. Because when you look at the rest of the American public, I mean, after all, Kamala did try to go up against that Democratic National Convention. And she did go, who was she up against? Tulsi Gabbard and a couple other Democrats plus Joe Biden. These people picked Joe Biden knowing that even back then in 2016 that this man was old. They knew back then that there was a chance that what's happening now could happen, that this man literally be at the age of dementia before he even walks out of the presidency. They knew this. They knew this. And yet they still pushed him forward rather than her. And that's the important thing to remember. She wasn't popular then. And I refuse to believe that her popularity has magically turned her into the second coming of Barack Obama. Without the media amplifying the hatred for Trump and amplifying January 6th and amplifying first of all, I really wish Trump would have stood there and said, excuse me, I have a question for my opponent. And just asked her point blank, do you blame me for COVID? I believe we all know where COVID came from. It came from China. It didn't come from fucking Donald Trump. As far as I know, he has no lab in Trump Plaza. As far as I know, he didn't make it. Do you blame me for COVID? Do you blame me that COVID broke out in what? And by the way, COVID really started around November 2019. We didn't go into lockdown until March of 2020. And I pay attention to international news, especially Chinese news. They were talking about a SARS-like symptom being seen, and they were talking about issues that resembled SARS back in November 2019. The reason why that sticks out in my mind is because I was in China in 2001 through 2003. And I remember when SARS broke out in China. When I was leaving China to go to Japan, I still got family members calling me worried because they were worried I might get SARS. And I remember even back then, the Chinese government was doing it was like the same playbook. They were burning bodies, they were hiding the numbers, they were downplaying it, and so forth and so on. So this is actually something that's kind of personal to me in a way, you could say. So my thing is, Trump's presidency, from what I can remember, it showed signs of moving towards recession by the end of 2019, but it was nowhere near as bad as what we've been through under these years of Biden and Harris. It was since 2021. Trump's 2019 was nowhere near as bad as Biden's 2021. I'll say it just like that. I refuse to count 2020 against Trump. I refuse to count it because, as far as I'm concerned, I don't blame him for COVID. And that's the question he really should have forced them to ask. There was a couple of questions that they asked Kamala, and she didn't really answer them. You remember the part where they said, what would you say to Putin in order to do something about this war? Now, mind you, Kamala Harris and Biden are in office right now. This war has been going on since 2021. What has she said to Putin? Nothing. Because as far as the Democrats are concerned, they're not speaking to our enemies. Now, what I do remember is Trump was speaking to North Korea's Kim Jong, and he was actually trying to make peace with him. What I do remember was we didn't have wars popping up during the Trump administration. I remember that idiot Karen Hunter on Urban View Sirius XM, I made a video of it too because I have the video. When Trump got in 2016, when he got in, oh, we're going to war. Oh, we're going to war now. Oh, he's going to start wars. It never happened. That's why I call her an idiot. As far as I'm concerned, she doesn't know anything. But this is what the media has done. They've put people, just because you may get a bullshit PhD or just because you sound good on the radio, they put these people in places and then they allow them to play the game of the media right up until they fuck up and they say something that they ain't supposed to say. But the reality is we didn't have wars popping up under Trump. We just didn't. And that's a historical fact. We've got pictures. And it's funny because I never see the media bring this up. We got pictures of him trying to talk with Kim Jong. The Democrats had shunned this guy. Even the Republicans. They had cut this guy off, wouldn't say nothing to him, wouldn't talk to him, threatened him all the time. He was threatening us. They threatened him. Never talked to him. But what we did have is we had a honest, legitimate attempt to make peace with our enemies, which is supposed to be, as far as I've heard, it's supposed to be a point of world leaders to try to find a way to negotiate so that we don't end up in fucking World War III. Kim Jong-il under North Korea, there's rumors that they have nuclear weapons. I don't know how good they are. I don't think they have the delivery systems. But I would rather try to work things out than to, accede to nuclear war. I would rather do it that way. Now, you might disagree with me, but I would rather try to work things out with the enemy than to go straight to nuclear war. I really would. Those wars didn't happen under Trump. What I do remember is once they got Trump up out of that office, I remember all of a sudden Ukraine. I remember when Obama was in office. He was putting paratroopers. Oh, yeah, this is the thin red line. You better not cross it, blah, blah, blah. As far as I remember, Russia crossed the line. They didn't give a fuck. Putin was like, yeah, Obama, you're not even going to be here that much longer. I'm in here for the next 6 years. Crossed that line, didn't he? He did. Putting paratroopers over there. I was like, wait a minute. Wait. Why are we sending paratroopers to Ukraine? Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's like, what are they going to do against the Russian army? You remember that Russian army that Rambo fought? I think it was Rambo 3? It's like, I don't think no paratroopers is going to do much to those guys. I really don't. But these people, these Democrats, have put you in multiple wars. These are the same people who point fingers at the Republican. Yeah, the Republicans did it. No. No, this time you're going to have to take the blame for it because now we can all see it. They asked Kamala point blank, what would you say to Putin? What did she say? She dodged the question. Now, Trump dodged a bunch of questions. I'm not going to say he didn't. Yes, he did. They asked her that. She dodged the question. Had I been Trump, I would have said, you know what? Let me put aside my speaking time for a second because I want Kamala to answer that question. What are you going to say to Putin? And I would have put her on the spot. He didn't do that because he's not me. I think I'm a better debater, and I think I juggle the facts better than he could. But that's just, he's not me. It's not, I have a different communication style than he does. And that's what it is. But that debate was a bullshit joke. The moderators were asking questions, loaded questions designed to bolster Kamala's defense. Things that I know her preppers have prepped her for. Now, I won't accuse them of giving her the answers or giving her the questions or whatever, but I know she was prepped for these questions because the thing about it is these questions have been memeified on the internet. And it's almost as if all of these debates and all of these rallies, they just follow the memes that are on Yahoo, the memes that are on Facebook, the memes that are on Instagram. That's what it looks like to me. So bottom line is this: the debate was a joke. The whole thing has been I know that there's a lot of people, oh, Trump embarrassed the country with this debate. Excuse me. First of all, these debates have been embarrassing for a very long time. It's just that with Trump there, it's taken a more visceral feel. It's taken a more negative tone, a tone that you normally wouldn't have seen. I think Obama versus Romney may have been the last debate that I saw where the tone really, it was a little bit more, how should I say, it was a little more professional. Romney is no fool. Romney is a business guy, blah, blah, blah. Obama is no fool. But the reality is, no, the progression that you see, what you see in these debates, people are like, oh, that's not America. That's not how we are. Excuse me. Yes, that is how you are. Have you seen how Americans behave at fucking traffic stops? Have you seen how Americans behave in the airports now? Fighting in the airport? I never believed, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, would I see all these fights in the airport or on airplanes? I never would have believed I would have seen the shit that I've seen over the last 5 or 6 years. And I was like, excuse me, guys, don't y'all realize there's a sign over there that says it's a federal crime to, like, you know, attack a fucking flight attendant or to fight on an airplane and to cause the shit to be delayed? These people don't care. That's the whole point. They don't care. When people looking at these debates, oh, the America, that's not the America I know. Wait a minute. Excuse me. Wait, isn't this the same America that, like, fought a civil war over slavery? Isn't this the same America that, like literally you had one half of the country trying to kill the other half? Wait. You've never seen January 6th? You never seen nothing like that? Wait a minute. Hold on. Isn't this the same America that literally declared an insurrection against the king of, like, England when we were a colony, we were a bunch of colonies? No, this is war. That's what this is. This is no longer a friendly conversation. This is no longer a debate. This is war. Oh, that's not my America. Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's how you sound on the news. That's how you sound when you call up these radio stations trying to be heard in the morning. That's how you sound when you're just arguing politics with your neighbor. Neighbors have killed each other over arguing politics. Yeah, that is what this country is. That's exactly what this debate is showing you, that you literally have two major factions, or you have two major sides, or two major opinions, or you have two major ideologies, and they're battling each other. This is war. This is not this is not a friendly conversation. This is like when they came up to each other and they shook hands. I'm surprised they did that, to be perfectly honest. I at the end, I really don't remember seeing them shake hands. I don't think it happened. But I remember at the very beginning seeing them shake hands. I'm like, I'm really surprised they did that. I'm surprised they didn't just go to their corners and get ready for the fight. This is war. That's what this is. The ideology of Kamala letting in illegals and you got what was his name, Tim, Tampon Tim. He wants to put tampon in the boys' bathroom and all that stuff. It's like that's an ideology. That's an ism, and these people want that. There's actually a YouTuber, and I'm just gonna mention that really quickly because I gotta get ready to go. But it's like 11:38. So I've been doing this for at least 40 minutes. But there was a YouTuber, Noah Coldwell Gervais. I think it's pronounced Noah Coldwell Gervais. And he did a review of Far Cry 5? Yeah, Far Cry 5. He did a review of Far Cry 5. And in that game, if you remember Far Cry 5, you may not have played it. It was about it was basically like it was basically as if the game had been designed to resemble Doomsday Preppers and Michigan Men and all of the worst that you can think of white supremacist American Appalachian culture, basically. And one of the points that he made in the game, he was like, listen, everybody, both sides, they keep bringing up Trump saying there was fine people on both sides. What he was basically saying was, regardless this game's iconography and imagery and whatnot, you have multiple sides and all of them are fighting for America. But the problem is they're all fighting for their own version of it. So what that says to me is like, I believe in America and I believe in the Constitution, but I'm only willing to fight for what I believe in of that, as if like I'm a cafeteria Christian and I'm like picking and choosing which parts of the Bible to believe in. So I'm willing to fight only for what I believe in. I'm willing to fight for the America that I believe in, not the one that you believe in. So you've got the, in the game, if you know what I'm talking about, you can watch the review yourself because it's still up. And it's a very good review because he does these very long video game reviews. Just fast forward to the part where he talks about Far Cry 5. But the bottom line is he was spot on. That's what's basically happened. People before Trump, this has nothing to do with Trump, but people have formed into factions. This goes way back to the Bush administration. This goes way back to the Reagan administration. Somewhere around that time, people started going into these factions. And the factions have basically brought us this two-party system, which I believe is evil. But it's brought us this two-party system. And now you have each side fighting for only for the America that they believe in. And that's where we've come. Now, with the Democrats, the interesting thing is over the last couple of years, especially regarding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the Democrats, for the most part, would be falling apart right now if that war, for whatever reason, takes any more turns for the worse. Because as you saw that you had the Muslim protesters and they basically split off. They threatened Biden. They said, yeah, we're not going to vote for you, blah, blah, blah. We don't care who wins. We don't care if Trump wins. And on top of that, you have other anti-Israeli factions within the Democrat Party. Then on top of that, as far as most Democrats, they don't care one way or another about Ukraine. But when you factor in the fact that they see their money as taxpayers going to Ukraine rather than going into, I don't know, things like building more charging stations so that we can actually power these electric cars you're trying to force us or force people into, I think that at that point, most of them turn on foreign aid for Israel and Ukraine. And Kamala Harris basically got right up there, kissed the ring, and said, oh, well, these are our allies, and what Trump just said is I'm going to let them fall and all that. Well, what I got to say is Trump was, in my opinion, anti-NATO. NATO was put there to stop Soviet aggression. The Soviet Union no longer exists. Why does NATO still exist? That's the question I would ask. And the reality is, he was saying, oh, well, if y'all don't pay up, we're not gonna do this, we're not gonna do that if you don't pay up. And the reality is, a lot of Americans agree with that. And as far as the tariffs and the protectionism, a lot of Americans agree with that. They're willing to vote for him because, as far as they're concerned, regardless how you feel about him and regardless how you feel that his supporters should feel about him, he's fighting for the America that they believe in. And that America that they believe in may not look like the America that these people on the left believe in. And it really doesn't. We know it doesn't. So that's basically where we are. We're embedded in a war. This is not a debate. I don't know if they'll have another debate because right now, what is this, September? It's like damn near the middle of September. I don't know if they'll have another debate. But the reality is, I can only imagine that the next one will get a little bit nastier because it's not going to get nicer, and that's the point. It's not supposed to get nicer. It's like when you put Mike Tyson in the ring versus another boxer. It's like it doesn't get nicer. Sooner or later, one of you is going to get knocked out. Even if it takes up until November 5th, one of you is getting knocked out. It's just that simple. So that's all I basically had to say. So I think I've run myself out. I think I'm tired now. It's 11:44. I'm going to bed. So you could just say whatever you felt, whatever you thought. It's up to you. So have a good night. Thanks for listening.